During my divorce, my husband claimed I abused our children. He told the court, she screams, she drinks, she hurts them. His lawyer nodded. I let them speak until the therapist's reports and recorded sessions were unsealed, and the judge turned to him because. My name is Sarah, and this is my story. I'm 37, living in Columbus, Ohio. I've got 2 kids, Lily, 10, and Ben, 8. Their dad, Mark, used to be my husband. We were together for 12 years. And for most of it, I tried to believe it was a good marriage. But it wasn't. Not even close. When we first got married, Mark seemed perfect. He was charming, funny, and made me feel like I mattered. We met at a mutual friend's party, and I thought I hit the jackpot. Everyone loved him, and he loved that everyone loved him. That should have been my first clue. It started small. He'd make jokes that didn't feel like jokes. He'd comment on what I wore, telling me I looked too easy in a dress or like a slob in sweatpants. Then he started tracking my spending, questioning every grocery receipt, every dollar I spent on the kids. It wasn't long before he told me to stop talking to my mom so much, that she was putting ideas in my head. He cut me off from my friends, told me they were jealous of our life. I stayed. I told myself it was normal. That he was just stressed. That marriage wasn't easy for anyone. We had 2 kids, and I didn't want them growing up in a broken home. So I stayed. But it got worse. Mark didn't just control me, he controlled the kids too. He'd lose his temper at the drop of a hat. If Lily spilled a glass of milk, he'd shout so loud the walls shook. If Ben cried because of a scraped knee, Mark would sneer and call him a baby. It wasn't every day, but it was enough. Enough that the kids walked on eggshells, flinched when he raised his voice, and sometimes even flinched when I did, just from habit. I finally reached my limit last year. I'd been seeing a therapist in secret. I knew I wasn't happy, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I started talking it out in those sessions. The therapist helped me see that staying for the kids wasn't actually protecting them. It was just teaching them that this was normal. That love looked like fear. So I filed for divorce. And that's when Mark showed me just how far he was willing to go. He told the court I was a monster. He claimed I screamed at the kids every day, that I was a drunk, that I hit them. He painted me as this unhinged, violent woman. And his lawyer backed him up like they had rehearsed it together. They said I was unstable, that I needed help, that the kids weren't safe with me. I sat there, stone-faced, while they tore me apart. It felt like they were describing someone I didn't even know. A stranger. I wanted to scream back at them, to defend myself. But my lawyer put her hand on my arm and whispered, "Wait." So I did. I let them finish. Then it was our turn. We had the reports. The therapist's notes from years of sessions. The kids' therapy sessions too. See, after everything started falling apart, I took Lily and Ben to a child psychologist. They'd been having nightmares, bedwetting, and trouble at school. I wanted to help them cope. Mark didn't know much about it, he never really cared about their appointments as long as he didn't have to go. When my lawyer started reading from the reports, the room shifted. The psychologist wrote that the kids were afraid of their father. That they felt safe with me. That Lily said, "Daddy yells and throws things when he's mad. I don't like it." That Ben told the therapist, "I get scared when Daddy shouts at Mommy. I feel like he wants to hurt her." Then came the recordings. The therapist had been smart, she had consent from me and the kids to record certain sessions. In the recordings, my kids described in their own words what was happening at home. Their little voices, shaky and sad, told the real story. The judge listened. Everyone listened. I watched Mark's face when the tapes played. He looked like a man who was caught but didn't think he could be. His lawyer shifted in his seat, flipping through papers like there might be something in there to save them. There wasn't. The judge turned to Mark. His voice was hard, no nonsense. He asked, "Mr. Peterson, how do you explain these discrepancies?" Mark couldn't answer. He stuttered, looked at the floor, rubbed his hands together. He tried to say I was manipulating the kids, but it didn't land. The evidence was clear. It was like the air in the courtroom had changed, like everyone suddenly saw him for what he really was. But that wasn't the end of it. Not even close. Because after that day in court, Mark didn't back down. He got worse. He started showing up at my job, waiting in the parking lot. He'd call me late at night, leaving voicemails saying I'd regret this. He told the kids I was trying to take them away from him because I didn't love them. He started spreading rumors to my neighbors, saying I was a liar, that I'd brainwashed the kids. The court issued a restraining order, but Mark didn't care. He kept pushing. The judge ordered supervised visits, but Mark tried to work around them, showing up unannounced at their school, trying to pick them up. I had to notify the principal, the teachers, everyone. The stress was constant. My hands shook every time the phone rang. My heart raced every time I left the house. The kids were scared too. Lily stopped sleeping through the night. Ben started wetting the bed again. I kept them in therapy, but the damage was showing. It wasn't over. Not even close. Mark's lawyer filed a motion to regain custody, accusing me of alienating the kids. They said I was manipulating them into fearing their father. That I was trying to erase him from their lives. I felt like I was living in a nightmare that wouldn't end. I was tired. So tired. But I wasn't done fighting. Not yet. After the judge questioned Mark, and after the therapist's reports were laid out for the whole court to see, I thought maybe, just maybe, it would be over. That I could breathe again. But Mark wasn't the kind of man to take a loss quietly. He came back swinging. 2 weeks after that courtroom bombshell, I got served with another motion. Mark was trying to regain full custody, saying I was alienating the kids, twisting their minds, turning them against him. He claimed I was using therapy to brainwash them. His lawyer filed a thick packet of affidavits from his family, his mother, his brother, even a cousin, stating I was unstable, a bad mother, and that I'd been poisoning the kids' minds with lies. It was all crap. Every word. But it was enough to drag me back into court. I didn't sleep the night before the hearing. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, listening to the quiet breathing of my kids in the next room, and I felt sick to my stomach. What if the judge believed him? What if the system failed me? The hearing was brutal. Mark's lawyer hammered me, twisting my words, cherry-picking things from therapy records out of context. They played up every single moment of frustration I'd ever had as a mom, every text I'd ever sent Mark about the kids being a handful, every time I'd raised my voice in frustration after a long day. They even tried to drag in a time I had a glass of wine with dinner, like that somehow proved I was a drunk. I sat there feeling like the ground was opening up under my feet, swallowing me whole. Then came the kids. They brought in Lily and Ben, which I begged them not to do, but the judge said he wanted to hear from them directly. They were so small, sitting in those big chairs, legs swinging, looking terrified. When the judge asked them if they felt safe with me, both nodded. Lily said, her voice small, "Mom makes us feel safe. Dad scares us sometimes." That's when Mark lost it. He stood up, right there in the courtroom, and shouted, "She's lying. She made them say that." His lawyer tried to calm him down, but Mark was red in the face, fists clenched. The bailiff had to step in. The judge looked at him like he was watching a man unravel, and honestly, that's exactly what was happening. But that wasn't the end. Mark was like a cornered animal after that. He started following me. Literally. I'd leave work and see his car parked down the street. He'd show up at the grocery store. At school pickup. Always watching, always pretending it was just a coincidence. I reported it. Again and again. The cops said unless he broke the restraining order directly, there wasn't much they could do. He was careful. just close enough to remind me he was there. Close enough that my skin crawled every time I left the house. Then came the emails. He sent me dozens. Rambling, angry, threatening. He said if I didn't make this right, he'd make sure I regretted it. That I was tearing the family apart and that I'd pay for what I did. I saved every single one. And still, the legal battle dragged on. Mark hired a new lawyer, slick, expensive, and ruthless. They tried a new angle, accusing me of mental instability. They filed a motion requesting a psychological evaluation for me. They said I was dangerous, manipulative, and emotionally erratic. I had to fight that too. It felt endless. Every time I thought I could breathe, they came back with something else. Another hearing, another motion, another demand. The kids were suffering. Lily started getting stomachaches before school. Ben was having full-on panic attacks. I kept them in therapy, tried to keep things as normal as I could, but it felt like we were drowning. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Mark did something that made my blood run cold. He tried to pick them up from school. On a day he wasn't supposed to have them. During a lunch break, he walked right into the school, signed in at the office like he belonged there, and told the secretary he was taking his kids home. Thankfully, the school staff knew the custody agreement. They stalled him, called me, and called the police. When I got the call, I could barely breathe. I raced to the school, shaking, terrified. The cops showed up and escorted Mark out, but the damage was done. My kids were terrified. They thought their dad was going to take them away. That night, Lily asked me if they'd have to live with him if he stole them. I couldn't even answer her. The school filed an official incident report. The judge was notified. But still, Mark wasn't arrested. It felt like the system was just waiting for him to do something worse. That's when I realized, Mark wasn't going to stop until he got what he wanted. Or until I stopped him. And I wasn't going to let him win. Not this time. After Mark tried to take the kids from school, I knew I couldn't wait for the system to protect us. I had to take control. I wasn't just fighting for my kids anymore. I was fighting for our safety, our sanity, and honestly, for my own survival. I sat down with my lawyer and laid it all out, the emails, the school incident, the therapy records, the restraining order violations, everything. My lawyer, a woman named Dana who had seen too many cases like mine, looked me dead in the eye and said, "We're not playing defense anymore. It's time to take him down." We filed a motion for full termination of Mark's parental rights. It was rare, extreme even, but we had a case. I knew it would get ugly, but I was ready. We also filed criminal charges, harassment, stalking, and violating the restraining order. It was a long shot, but I wasn't backing down. That week, I did something I'd been scared to do. I sat the kids down and told them everything. The truth. I told them that their dad wasn't safe. That I loved them more than anything, and that I was going to protect them no matter what. They cried. I cried. But it had to be said. Then came the final hearing. Mark showed up looking rough. His hair was unkempt, he hadn't shaved, and he had this jittery energy like a man who knew his time was running out. His fancy new lawyer was there too, acting all smug like they still had the upper hand. The courtroom was packed. My family, some friends, even people from the kids' school who knew what was happening, they all came to support us. I felt it in my chest, this tight, hot ball of fear and fury. The judge listened to the evidence. The recordings of Mark's threatening voicemails. The emails. The testimony from the school principal about the day Mark tried to take the kids. The therapist's reports, showing how Lily and Ben had been traumatized, how they had nightmares about their father. Even a statement from my neighbor, who had seen Mark lurking around my house at night, peeking through the windows. Mark tried to play it cool at first. He sat there like none of it bothered him. But when the judge started asking hard questions, he cracked. He stood up, shouting again, accusing me of brainwashing the kids, of turning everyone against him. He ranted that the system was rigged, that I was a liar, that the judge was biased. That's when it happened. The judge leaned back in his chair, folded his hands, and said in the calmest, coldest voice I've ever heard, "Mr. Peterson, I'm revoking your visitation rights, effective immediately. You are no longer permitted any contact with your children, direct or indirect, until further notice. And I'm referring your case for a full criminal investigation." Mark froze. His lawyer's mouth dropped open. The courtroom went silent, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. I sat there, numb. It was happening. It was actually happening. But it wasn't over. 2 weeks later, Mark was arrested. They got him on charges of harassment, violating a restraining order, and attempted parental abduction. His own lawyer dropped him. The DA decided to prosecute, and Mark pled not guilty, of course, but it didn't matter. The evidence was stacked too high. His own emails and voicemails buried him. He got sentenced to 2 years in prison. And then came the cherry on top, Mark's family. The same people who wrote affidavits against me? They tried to sue me for defamation, saying I ruined Mark's life. But I had everything in writing, their lies, their emails, even a recording of Mark's mother trying to bribe the kids with gifts if they'd say they wanted to live with their dad. My lawyer filed a counterclaim for harassment and defamation. I won. They dropped the suit, and I got a restraining order against Mark's mother and brother too. In the end, they all fell. Every one of them. But here's the part that still stings: I wasn't perfect either. I let it get this far. I ignored the red flags for too long. I let Mark control me, isolate me, make me doubt myself. I thought I was protecting my kids by keeping the family together, but I was wrong. I should have left years earlier. I have to live with that. The kids are healing. It's slow, but it's happening. Lily smiles more now. Ben is doing better in school. We're in therapy every week, and I'm working hard to be the mom they deserve. I'm learning to forgive myself, to stop looking over my shoulder every time I leave the house. It's hard. Some nights, I still wake up in a cold sweat, half expecting to see Mark's car parked outside. But we're safe now. And that's all that matters. Mark's gone. His lies caught up with him. The truth won, in the end. And I'll never let anyone hurt my kids again. Not ever.